Our journey began with the story of one suitcase. Hana Brady was a young Jewish girl who tragically perished in the Holocaust. When her suitcase resurfaces from a museum at Auschwitz, millions of people learn of her story. It is a beautiful one that, for students, can lead to questions of identity, tolerance, and how the past has shaped who we are today. It became the inspiration for our Heritage Project. As well as learning about various cultures, students researched their personal histories, assembling their own suitcases. Just as Hana spoke to her identity, our suitcases did the same.
Throughout this project, I learned about different countries and Hana Brady. First, I learned about Hana Brady. It was a sad story how she got ripped away from her family just because she was Jewish. It was like racism, how people treated people differently because of their religion. We learned about different countries. One of them was Sri Lanka. Andre came in to talk about Sri Lanka. He banged chicken curry. Next, we learned about Hong Kong. Richie's dad came in to talk about Hong Kong and their styles. We also learned about Scotland and Ukraine. It was interesting to learn about Gandhi and how he used past resistance to give freedom back to India. I learned a lot of interesting things.
Students became extraordinarily enthused about the project because it was essentially about them. They learned the value of everyone's story and realized we all have fascinating tales to tell, each one deserving of the utmost respect. Students were able to make deep, meaningful connections not only with Hana's story, but with all those around them, their family, peers, and wider community. It is these connections that brought our project to life, helped all of us become more aware of our common humanity, and realize how much we all support and depend on one another. Through learning about their own backgrounds and having the opportunity to become aware of so many others, they acquired a new perspective on the world, beginning to see themselves and those surrounding them in a new light. Many students commented that they had gained many valuable insights about their fellow classmates that they would not have otherwise known.
The multicultural aspect of it was so valuable for each and every student. Each of them got to really discover their heritage, and in turn this just brought us all together a lot closer as a grade 6 community. I don't think that we really could have done this without the help of our parents and also the help of aunts and uncles and grandparents, and the artifacts that the children brought in created stories that the children never knew about. So not only was it a learning situation about other countries, it was also learning about their families. The third thing is the community aspect, because with the gallery presentation, it brought together our community, and each child was able to showcase their heritage. And I think with that, it really drove home to other people that, you know, our education system, we really need to be, putting this thought into the children's head that we come from so many different backgrounds, that it's important for all of us to really be together. It was a very rewarding experience for the children, their parents, and our community.
Through the discovery of their background, students were able to learn more about their own identity and how the past has shaped who they are and where they are going. The past came alive. This knowledge helped students connect with Hana's story on a much deeper level. The Holocaust was no longer just a tragic historical event, but became real to students as they could see how the past informed the present as Hana's life was transforming theirs. They were able to make parallels with issues so prevalent with their own generation, like bullying and schoolyard violence, and what can happen when there is a disregard for others' rights, beliefs, and values. Through the process of self-discovery, I believe students discovered their own humanity, connecting that sense with those around them. They were not just learning to tolerate diversity, but to recognize and appreciate how it comprises the fabric of their own community.
And I think it was a wonderful thing to do, especially at this age. This is where kids start to really figure out who they are and where they came from. With the aspect of talking about different cultures, then they started to explore, broader, where did my ancestors come from and that kind of thing. And
it was a good thing for our family. It brought us together. It brought my parents into my children's school for the first time since they were in kindergarten.
another level, it was a great project because as my own kids went through their own past, they discovered things about their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. Not only their accomplishments and the type of personalities they were, but what countries they descended from, and they discovered all sorts of great things about themselves.
Again, students were beginning to develop a genuine appreciation for the diverse nature of the world around them. They took ownership over that learning, and nowhere was this more evident than at our grade 6 Suitcase gallery opening. Our academic work and our suitcases were put on display for our community. We were all very proud to present the project in which we had invested so much time, effort, and dedication.
At each section there's a suitcase explaining our whole gallery. Okay. You can stop to read if you want, and here's a pamphlet on our whole gallery.
It was on Sri Lanka. Let me see. Our teacher's friend Andre brought in chicken curry for us to try. As I told you, Andre, this is his family and everything. This trunk was used to immigrate a family of 3 all the way from Sri Lanka. So they had to pack all their belongings.
All their belongings there.
This is a jersey, a cricket jersey from Sri Lanka, and also this is a newspaper article written in Sinhalese.
Oh, okay.
Those were made by Miss Nesbitt's and Miss Yates' class. This is what some of the colors mean.
This big Ukrainian A.
So. I think so.
Oh, is this your display, Peter?
Oh no, we're just
Yeah.
Oh, no.
okay.
We made Scottish baskets. Whoa! We made Scottish baskets for class as a craft. In Scotland, they put ale and cheese in them and stuff. And
Oh,
give them
okay.
to their friends as gifts. So, but these the ones in Scotland are made out of wood.
Right.
Students had the wonderful opportunity to explore how their past has shaped the formation of their personal identities, and to more closely examine their attitudes, values, and beliefs. As well, it was incredibly gratifying for each student to discover that others were not only interested in, but fascinated by their personal accounts. In this way, I think each experienced a sense of power in realizing that they could affect their surroundings and indeed change the world around them. We all, regardless of our backgrounds, have the power to affect change. This, above all, is what I hope each take with them as they navigate their way through the world and continue adding to their stories, a true sense of self-determination, hope, and purpose. Most of my students approached me to communicate their excitement about not only the sheer number of visitors, but our guests' positive and many times emotional reaction to all of our hard work and each student's presentation of their personal histories.
It's also like when you read the book, like how it taught you about discrimination, how like the Germans singled out people. It relates now because of bullying. Bullying's a major crisis now, and these years, and it really taught you about the discrimination, how it's like the exact same.
When we started reading about her, and it kind of like gave us a feel like why we should care, and like when people heard about like what George had to go through, it was kind of hard to hear about that and how you put yourself in that position if like one of your family members died. When we read about it, just everything came together, and it made us seem like we want to get to know our background to see if anything else happened in the world that we don't know about.
When I was talking with my grandfather, he was saying how he had to find out for himself where his family came from, because his parents and their parents said, oh, well, you don't need to worry about that now, you're still too young. And he got really mad about that because he wanted to know where he came from, and it wasn't for like a project or anything. So, he said that it was good that we did this project because we learned where we came from and, what our family did in the past. And, he said, I'm really happy that your class last year did the project, because now you guys know, and now you don't need to say to your kids, oh, well, you don't need to know that, or, I don't know where our family comes.
I just think that with each culture and people is pretty much like you start off with flat ground and then it's like digging a 20-foot hole into the person's life, and it's seeing everything they might have gone through, their family, where they're from, all their different like aspects of life and all that, and to treat them, they probably treat each other differently, seeing how it's a pretty big factor of life, what culture you are, and everybody knowing whose culture each other are in. It would bring each other a lot. It would bring everyone a lot closer.
It's also important like to know about your history, because you can never know like what happened in your past, because it's important to know, because that's your heritage. Like you don't want to forget your heritage.
I think they must have become closer as a class, because I really noticed the enthusiasm about this seemed to grow just from how she talked about it at home. When the kids had all their stuff out on display and they were talking with one another and they were eager to show you stuff, it was just a fantastic thing. And I found it actually quite emotional to talk to some of the kids about their exhibits. And it was fantastic to see Nicole in her grandmother's dress that came from Hong Kong, and you know, all the different things. Peter showing me his father's papers from coming across, you know, as a displaced person.
Okay, Peter.
This is my suitcase, and I'll just tell you a little bit of my heritage. So I'll just tell you like my grandparents, which came. These are my great-grandparents from my father's side. They come on the ship, the Cunard White Star SS Samaria, while my dad, up in the corner, with his mother, came on the Cunard White Star SS Scythia.
That opening, the gallery opening, generated a lot of excitement in our house. It looked fabulous. It was exciting for the kids to participate in, because I heard lots of talk from neighborhood children as well. They felt incredibly proud of it, and it looked fabulous. I have been to many a school event, and I don't believe that I have seen a more enthusiastic crowd and a more finished looking product, because when I walked into the gym, it really did feel transformed. It was clear, it was obvious that the kids cared a great deal about what they had done, that they had put in a lot of work into every project, but also the final showing.
Students worked together and investigated their heritage, and the end display was something that everyone was proud of, not just the class and the teachers and the school community, but also the outside community. There was an impressive display not only of foods but of various cultures throughout the world. It brought our students together, our families together, and the whole feeling of togetherness was something that you had to be there to believe.
It is in this sense of togetherness that students began to discover their own voices. When children are encouraged to develop an appreciation for their own humanity, that respect extends to others and a true sense of empathy is born. I believe that this is one of the main lessons of Hana's story, and one that sustained our entire project, that in our diversity we can come together and unite.
The story of Hana is getting down, and she is teaching today, I would say, millions of kids about tolerance and understanding and respect for each other. And the fact is that Hana, who wanted to be a small-time teacher, suddenly became a teacher to the world. I think in all the tragedy there couldn't be a better outcome than this.
I liked Hana's Suitcase gallery opening because I got to see everyone's different heritage. The suitcase is focused on different things. Another reason why I liked Hana's Suitcase gallery opening was because so many people showed up, not only to learn about Hana's story, but to learn about our stories, our heritage. My favorite part, however, was not among the three that I mentioned, but close to the last one. My favorite part was telling people about Hannah's story, teaching them not to think about the story without knowing what it means, to think about a story that keeps so many people wondering, a story that started with one suitcase. I learned that it is not fair to take things for granted when so many people don't have them. I now drop a coin in buckets, which state the money goes to help the homeless. I also learned that everyone is equal and racism should be stopped because no one is different, and that if racism continues, it could get out of hand and make innocent people suffer for no reason. But the most important thing I learned was stopping racism and trying to show people not to pick on other people just because of racism, and to keep the story in our brains, our minds, and most of all our hearts.
Challenge to you guys. I hope that if you ever do see that sort of injustice, you tell someone, you try and stop it, you do whatever you can, because these things escalate, and then the worst things happen, and suddenly a suitcase is left without an